All right, everyone, we'll get us started here now. So welcome to the OBS VAP Training Center webinar, Motivating Staff in the New Normal. I am Blake Cush, the Director of Training and Outreach at OBS. In the coming weeks, many regions of New York State will have officially started the transition forward on the way to reopening and a return to in-office and in-person work. We understand that that time of transition comes with excitement, challenges, questions, and we're here to help you. Today's webinar is actually the third in our Transition Forward webinar series, which was developed with the goal of helping you tackle some of these unique challenges. So a full list of those trainings is offered, a full list of the trainings in the Transitions Forward webinar series is on your screen, and it's also available on our obs.ny.gov/training webpage. Each webinar, including today's, is recorded, and the links are made available on that same page. And they can also be accessed via our OBS Training YouTube channel. As soon as you exit today's webinar, you'll be directed to an evaluation survey. It's a redirect to a SurveyMonkey site, and you might actually have to click that you trust the site once it pops up on your screen. It is safe. Once you're there, you have an opportunity to go in, take a couple minutes, give us some feedback, but also notify us if you're interested in receiving more training and follow-up on this or a variety of other training topics. And those are things that we can follow up with you that are part of our Training and Technical Assistance Request program, which you might learn a little more about later too. Today's webinar will be led by Jennifer Amstutz of JA Strategies and Alan Krieger of Krieger Solutions. Ginny and Alan have more than 40 years of combined experience in consulting and training, working with nonprofits and agencies around New York State, and both have also served as executive directors of nonprofit organizations. Both Ginny and Alan also have master's degrees in management. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Ginny and Alan.
I guess it would help if I took myself off mute. Thank you, Blake. We're happy to be here. We are going to take you through just a few updates on looking at your WebEx screen. So I know we've done a lot of these webinars, and hopefully you've been able to join us. And we've also done a bunch of video calls. Everybody's been doing a bunch of video calls, but just in case you are not familiar with WebEx, I want to take you through what the screen. So if you click on the bottom of your WebEx screen, a menu should pop up right there at the bottom, and in the center of the icons is one with a bubble in it that opens to the chat box. It's a black icon now if you haven't opened it yet, and it'll be blue once you have. The chat box will open over on the right of your screen. So during the program today, if you have any specific questions or if you want to make a comment, sometimes we may even ask you to chat into the chat box. Please feel free to use this to enter your comments or questions into the box. Make sure that it's set to send your messages to all participants. Take a moment to do that now. So if you see if you've opened your chat box, you can see something and you just click on it and it'll you change that to all panelists, not all participants, sorry. If you do that, we will take turns monitoring the questions. So by sending it to all panelists, you can be sure that your questions will be seen quickly. We'll answer them as we go along, and we'll also take time at the end to answer any we missed. In a few minutes, you'll also be given an opportunity to participate in a couple of online polls. And when we open each poll, a box will pop up on the right-hand side of your screen, much like where the chat box is, and you'll be able to click on the answers. After the poll, you can click on the X in the upper right-hand corner to close the poll results off of your screen. So our topic today is a big one, motivating staff in the new normal. And motivation is one of the most challenging issues managers and supervisors face. Right now, we're operating in a constellation of crises, and under the strain of worry and chaos around us, motivation can wither away. But the good news is that motivation is not as mysterious as it sometimes seems. And in our session today, we will point out some practical and simple strategies you can use to motivate your staff. Strategies that will help you maintain good performance and move to even higher performance. Will also help you to avoid demotivating staff. You can sometimes do that unintentionally, and we'll point out ways to help make sure you don't. So our goals today are to help you understand what motivates people to act as they do, and then from that, find effective motivators you can use every day. We'll explain why one size doesn't fit all, and you'll learn how individual differences can impact motivation. You'll also get a better handle on what a supervisor's role in motivation actually is, and how that is evolving in our current and ever-changing work environment. And we hope by the end of the session, you will feel more motivated to continue yourself in your role as a leader. So what exactly is motivation? We use the word all the time, but what does it actually mean? Motivation can be challenging, but it boils down to some basic principles, simple principles. And with some minor adjustments, those principles still apply even in our new normal. The definition of motivation is also really simple. Motivation is something that causes a person to act. That's it. Motivation is not getting people to work hard. That's the result of their being motivated. Motivation is simply the drive that moves us to action, whatever that action may be. Some people are motivated to goof off, to not show up for work, and other behaviors that we'd prefer not to see in our workspace. But they're all motivated, just maybe in the wrong direction. So the good news is all your employees are motivated. The bad news is not all are motivated the way you want them to be. Our goal today is to develop some strategies that move employees to high performance and move them to be motivated in the way we want them to be. So we're going to start with 2 quick polls that we'd like you to take. First, we want to get a sense of how motivated you think your team is right now. Choose the answer that fits best and just choose only one. So are they highly motivated? Are some of them highly motivated, but the most are motivated just a little bit? Some are a little bit motivated, but a few are unmotivated, or are a few motivated, but most not. We're going to give you just a very short time. You have about 15 seconds left to click on your answer, and we'll see where we think people's motivation is right now. All right, we're closing the poll now, and in a second we'll be able to see the answers. Can we share the results? There we go. Okay, great. So about half of us answered, and about 40 of you that answered said a few are highly motivated, and most are motivated to some extent. So that's great. And then right below that, you have most are somewhat motivated, but a few are unmotivated. And then at either end, some people have a group that is mostly highly motivated, and a few of you have a group that is mostly not motivated. But everybody finds their way somewhere in the middle. So what we want to do is move those who answered C up into a B, and hopefully move some of those that are in B up into that A, highly motivated area by some of our strategies today. Next, we want to do one more poll, and we want you to pick what you think most motivates people to do their best work. So when you think about motivation right now, what are the things that you consider significant motivators? So we're asking you here on the honor system to just choose the 2 that you think are most significant. Is it good pay? Is it a good working relationship? Is it challenging work? What are the things that you consider most significant in motivating people to do their best work? This one we'll give you a little bit more time to think about it, but you have about 30 seconds left. Okay, get those last remaining answers in. All right, time is up. So let's see, what do people think were the most significant motivators? It does take a minute to publish, so bear with us. All right, so I see that many of you thought meaningful work and feeling appreciated were the most likely to be significant motivators, and really being left alone to do your work, challenging work, and good benefits were the least likely. So during the program, we're going to talk about each of these motivators or each of these things and their impact on motivation. But now you can close the poll out if you'd like. All right, and we're going to move on to the next slide. So employee motivation and engagement is important. The Gallup organization conducts an employee engagement survey every year, and 10 years ago, only 15% of employees considered themselves engaged. Now it's up to 34%, and while that's an impressive gain, that still means that 2/3 of employees overall are disengaged, and disengaged staff are unmotivated staff. And of those, about 15% are actively disengaged. And actively disengaged workers are non-productive and can even be destructive employees. So we need to think about, what are the things that employees value most so that they can be engaged and most motivated. And sometimes what we think motivates staff and what actually motivates staff can be quite different. Many managers assume that what motivates staff is good wages, benefits, the ability to be promoted, and have job security. But what actually engages employees can be quite different. Research shows that employees are engaged by the opportunity to succeed and be recognized for the work that they do, by clear expectations and feedback about whether they are meeting those expectations, by an engaged supervisor and a motivated team. And then finally, as we all know, by an important mission and the knowledge that they are making a difference. So where does motivation come from? People argue about whether motivation comes from within a person or if people are motivated by external forces. So I'm going to suggest today that motivation is an internal force that comes from within each person. However, this internal force is influenced by external factors, and that's where we're going to focus our efforts. How supervisors can use these external influencers to motivate staff in the direction of high performance. The bottom line is that what motivates people to do their best work is that people take action to meet their own needs. And there's nothing selfish about this. We all want to be happy, we all want to have productive lives, and we want our jobs to contribute to that. So we'll be exploring today what these individual needs might be and how, as a supervisor, you can tie them to motivation. So let's first take a look at these internal forces and see what influences how we act. One way to think about motivation is as an iceberg. The behavior we see is the tip of the iceberg. What's beneath the waterline are the drivers of those behaviors. These drivers include our feelings about the workplace, our work, and how we feel treated by others. The 7 feelings on the slide are keys to motivation. If our staff are feeling positively about these, they're likely to be motivated. Our individual values and needs, what we believe is most important, influences how we experience the workplace. Our expectations, how we expect to be treated on the job by our supervisor, by our coworkers, and our clients, can vary greatly from one person to another. People don't always share their expectations, but when they are not met, they can react badly. And our attitude towards work, this one is strongly influenced by past experiences we've had in other workplaces and our perceptions as to whether we will feel treated well in this workplace and will get our expectations met. And then all of these are filtered by the waterline, which is our perception. Perception is how we see and interpret actions of others, and then how we filter those actions through our own perspective. Perception changes the way these impact on our internal drivers. And we'll discuss these variations in perception in more depth in a little while. So reviewing the choices in that second poll we just did, I'd say 2 important and fairly universal motivators are feeling appreciated and having a good relationship with your supervisor. Pay and benefits can come into play with feelings of fairness, but they're not as strong at motivating people to do their best work as the other ones. And we saw that in the answers that people chose. And we'll see later that being left alone to do my work and challenging work, although we didn't rate them highly this time, can also be motivators for some people. Motivation is based on the employees buying into working hard to meet the organization's expectations of them. And there has to be a benefit to them for them to buy this. So as a result, supervisors need to sell more than they need to tell. Leaders motivate their staff, managers hold them accountable. Supervisors need to be both. And since we're discussing motivation, we're going to focus on leadership today. To sell their employees on high performance, supervisors need to create an environment in which employees work willingly to meet the goals of the organization. In other words, they're motivated to do the work because they think they'll get something they value as a result. They're buying into the whole package. Powerful motivation is connected to what is going on below the waterline on a daily basis, connecting with people's values, their needs, and expectations. If we tie the work to this, people will be highly motivated. In our current crisis environment, we've added one more piece to the job of a leader. Leaders need to create a climate where employees feel safe, appreciated, and cared for. Our staff are extremely stressed, and many of them are dealing with clients who are even more stressed. So they need to know that we have their back. It's important to listen carefully to your staff and make sure you're addressing, to the extent you can, what they value and expect. This doesn't mean we have to become our employees' therapists or best friends, but we do have to understand that motivation is not one size fits all. We have to listen and observe to understand that the unique set of values, attitudes, and expectations each employee brings to the workplace. So the first step in good motivation is to listen carefully. But of course, there's much more to motivation, and to start that, we want you to think about how an employee's work style, their different preferences and expectations impacts their motivations. There are many models that we can help you understand work styles. So you might be familiar with Myers-Briggs, or maybe you've done a DISC assessment sometime over the years. On some of our previous webinars and on some of our OVS projects through the TTARP program, we have used one called TEAM. The idea behind any of these work styles assessment is to look at how people approach communication, relationships, and their work. Based on individual work styles, some staff members might be motivated by action, while others might prefer to work in a more stable environment. Some people are motivated by independence and autonomy, while others prefer collaboration and teamwork. Some people love to be center stage, and others would prefer to be behind the scenes. Knowing somebody's work style will help you understand what will motivate them. So the first rule of motivation is there's not a single best motivator for everyone. Each person has to be approached as an individual. So get to know your employees and their style so you can best tailor your motivation strategy to each person. There are many motivational strategies available to you, and an important guide to keep in mind is our upgrade to the Golden Rule. You all know the Golden Rule, right? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And so we often interpret this as treat people as you want to be treated. But as we're discussing now, people have different preferences, they have different work styles, and therefore 3 out of 4 people may not want to be treated the way you want to be treated. So we've upgraded this to a new Golden Rule, the Golden Rule 2.0. And that goes as follows. Do unto others as they want to be done unto. Treat people the way they want to be treated. And when you're trying to motivate people, try and understand from a person's individual work style the type of tasks and projects that they might want to do and what might motivate them. But work styles is only one part of motivation. And Alan is now going to help us understand some of the other effective motivational strategies.
Thanks, Jenny. There are many theories of motivation. And what they all boil down to is that people work hard when they feel they get some benefit from working hard. What that benefit exactly is where the motivational theories diverge. Most theories will point you to one core factor that's the secret to success. We don't believe any one strategy works with all employees. However, there are a few core strategies that, with some minor adjustments, can work well with nearly all employees. There are 3 goals that all motivational strategies should work towards. Supervisors need to increase staff's sense of competence so they feel they're able to do the job, autonomy so they can work on their own without being micromanaged, and belonging so they feel part of a team. People can't be motivated to work hard if they don't feel they have the skills to do the job effectively. So focusing on competence is your first job. No one likes to be micromanaged, so a sense of autonomy is also important. And finally, feeling like part of a team can make people feel good about the workplace, and that can translate to higher performance. So how does a supervisor go about doing this? Let's look at competence first. Hopefully the hiring process brought you some skilled and competent staff, but all new employees need an orientation to your procedures and policies so they feel confident and competent in the workplace. While they may have solid skills, they still need to learn how to apply these skills in your context and with your clients. The initial few months are a great time to do a careful assessment of new hires and to provide the training and coaching they need to get up to speed. In this time of working remotely, hiring, orienting, and training new staff is even more challenging and even more important. Being isolated while feeling not fully competent can be a great demotivator. Open and honest communication can be difficult if new employees are anxious about their work, so take the time to check in regularly and informally, as well as having formal supervisory sessions. Your long-term staff can also have issues of competence, so it's important to keep checking in on them as well. The work context is changing dramatically, and they may need refreshers and coaching to most effectively complete their work in the new normal. They may have many questions about how their job is shifting, and you being available to them and staying supportive is key to working through these questions. Competence is the most straightforward of the three motivational areas, which is why we listed it first. The second key goal is for staff to feel autonomous. No one likes to be micromanaged, but as a manager, we're responsible for our team's performance. So some managers monitor the work too closely, especially with new employees. I just finished saying it's important to stay closely engaged but not micromanage. How do you do that? You engage with the employee to answer their questions and provide support, not to closely monitor their work. You do need to have some way to assess their performance, but do it at a high level. Are they getting the work done overall? Are they achieving the outcomes? Don't focus on what they do minute to minute to get it done. Check on their progress weekly or bi-weekly. Some new employees welcome initial close supervision and resent being thrown into the water and being expected to swim on their own right away. People with different work styles, as Jenny mentioned, have different preferences in how closely they like to be supervised. Some are interested in maximum autonomy, while others prefer to stay more engaged with their supervisor. If you can tune into these differences, you can provide the right degree of autonomy and dial it up as appropriate. The first goal we discussed, competence, is clearly the key to autonomy. We can't let employees be autonomous until we're sure they're fully competent. And there are two people judging their competence, you as leaders and the employees themselves. If you give someone lacking in confidence too much autonomy because you think they can handle it, they'll resent it. They'll feel left on their own. Likewise, if you hold somebody back with high self-confidence, who you don't think is ready to do the job, they'll also resent it. So it's important to be really clear about people's expectations, and your assessment and open communication is the key to managing autonomy. Just because someone has confidence in themselves doesn't mean they're actually competent. So regular feedback from the supervisor is important to be sure that both the supervisor and employee are on the same page. In this time of evolving expectations, staff will need regular input and guidance from you to help them manage the crisis. And it's important to do this in ways that help them maintain their degree of autonomy. And finally, we're in a time of rapid change, and your staff may need to redesign their work yet again as things begin to open up or not, and clients may expect more in-person services. Ask your staff for ideas on how they might manage this shift, and only chime in if they need input or are going in the wrong direction. The more you can let them lead on this with your input, the more autonomous they will feel without being abandoned. So we've covered the first two goals for building motivation, developing competence and autonomy. The third area is belonging. All employees want to feel that they are valued members of the team and that there is a meaningful place for them at work. They want to be recognized for their contribution to the agency, and feeling appreciated was one of the things you all rated highly. They want to feel that they belong with their work team, their department, and with the organization overall. The key to this is building a team where people feel valued and supported. People with different work styles relate to this differently, but each wants to feel they belong to a team. Some want to be on a team of workers who get the job done. Others focus more on being part of a team where people care about each other and provide support and camaraderie as well as the work. Two keys to achieving a sense of belonging is for team leaders and members to regularly recognize all members' contributions, and for team members to provide the kind of support each person wants. The sense of belonging is probably most under stress when working remotely. As we mentioned in prior webinars, it's key for team leaders to provide forums for team members to stay engaged with each other, both professionally and personally. If you can provide for every staff person to have a sense of competence, autonomy, and belonging, you'll have a highly motivated team. We have some specific motivational strategies that can help you build this for your team. But before we go there, we have a short detour. It's important to be aware that there are a number of reasons besides motivation as to why employees don't always do what you want them to do. There are a number of issues that may look like poor motivation, but they're not. And there's no point in trying to motivate your staff if motivation isn't the issue. This slide shows the first few points about why employees may not do what you want. In this case, it could be because they do not fully understand exactly what you want them to do, or they may not know how to do it, or they may think they are actually doing it when they're not. If you stop and think about it, these generally are motivated employees. They're working hard, but they misunderstood what you're asking for, and as a result, they're moving in the wrong direction. This points to the need for a solid orientation, clear performance expectations, regular feedback and coaching, thorough training, and open communication. These elements will help ensure that employees fully understand what you expect them to do and will give them the skills to do it. The second set of problems that may look like but are not motivation involve trust. In some cases, employees may know what you want them to do and how to do it, but they may not trust your guidance or leadership. They think their way is better than yours, or they think your priorities are misplaced. Once again, we have motivated employees who are going off in the wrong direction. Where are they? The first thing to do is to stop and listen. Maybe they have some information you don't have, or maybe they truly have a new idea that's better. Listen with an open mind, and maybe even experiment a little to see if there's merit to their suggestions. If there is, celebrate and go with it. If not, thank them for their suggestions. See if you can validate some portion of their strategy, and then show them where it won't work as well as they think. Coach them through this. Don't slap them down. In the new normal, one important piece to add to your role is having regular check-ins with employees working remotely so you can be aware of any of these kinds of disconnects. The third set of issues is related to motivation, but sometimes we have it backwards. Sometimes there are no positive consequences for doing the job well, or there's even a negative consequence for doing a good job. So we discourage poor performance, and sometimes we even discourage good performance, and sometimes we even reward poor performance instead of correcting it. So how can that be? Often we load up our good workers with more and more tasks or more complicated tasks, especially when the workload is heavy. And we cut back these difficult tasks for the poor performers so they don't make mistakes and they get to go to training, get coached, or are given less work or less critical tasks. So we punish good performance and reward poor performance. We might actually have motivated employees here, but since they're not rewarded for good work, they're motivated by us to do bad or less work. The key to this very common situation is to first recognize it, and then be sure to build in praise and promotion as a reward for hard work, not giving more work and more stress. Continue to focus on poor performance as well, and try to correct it. Where that fails, create true negative consequences for poor performance. Hold people accountable. In a crunch, you might have to load up your good workers, but be sure to acknowledge it, limit it, and hold your other staff accountable to quickly pick up the slack. Fairness becomes an issue here. We delivered a webinar last month on managing performance remotely, and we'll be doing one in a few weeks on evaluating performance, and these may help you develop accountability strategies. And here are some additional issues that may look like motivation, but they're not. Sometimes work doesn't get done as expected because there are obstacles beyond an employee's control, or at least they think it's beyond their control. Or they may have personal limitations that limit their ability to complete a job. Sometimes they have personal problems that drain their energy. This is especially true during our evolving crisis to a new normal. Dealing with the crisis of the past few months and new crises that arise every day have been especially draining. These all impact work performance, but they're not really motivational problems. Solutions can include removing obstacles where possible, providing training to overcome the obstacle, reassessing staff to areas in which they have more skills which better fit their circumstances, making job expectations more realistic, or shifting their schedule and providing enhanced support, and also referring employees to employee assistance for personal problems or stressors that are impacting the job. Once again, it's not that the employee is not motivated, it's that they are motivated to do the job well, but something is preventing them from that. So now that we've discussed how to intervene in problems that look like poor motivation but are not, Jenny will discuss some strategies for how you motivate people to high performance.
Thanks, Alan. So we're going to look at kind of two models of management. First, we're going to look at the old model of management, and that was often called my way or the highway. So I'm the boss, and you fit in with my model or you don't fit in. So now we're trying to look at a more enlightened model of management, and it's called employee-centered leadership. This is based on the premise that the employees do most of the actual work anyway, and management is there to provide the resources and processes needed for employees to do their best. So let's consider some motivational strategies that can work in a more employee-centered environment. There are 5 strategies leaders can use to tap into their staff's motivation, and we're going to discuss each of them individually. But first, here's the overview. Build connections with and among staff. Learn to respond to each of them as individuals. Number 2 is be clear about what kind of performance you expect from employees in each type of job and drive out fear related to honest mistakes and efforts to improve. Number 3 is to provide positive feedback when it's warranted and to work hard to catch employees doing a good job so you can let them know. Number 4 is providing training, coaching, and corrective feedback where it's needed to help employees improve their skills and performance. And last, number 5, is to engage employees and provide appropriate and meaningful challenges or increased responsibilities as employees are ready to take them on. Some of these may not be obvious as motivators, and we'll explain this in a few minutes. But these strategies build a motivational work climate by tapping into internal motivators. They connect to the values each person brings to the workplace and their expectations for how they'd like to be treated. The 5 strategies help build the 3 foundations of competence, autonomy, and belonging that Alan walked us through. And they're easy for you to use every day as part of your ongoing supervisory and management responsibilities. They're not something extra you have to do. Effective motivation is an everyday project. So let's look at them one by one. We've already been talking a lot about strategy number 1, build connections with staff. Until you have successfully built a positive connection with your staff, the other 4 strategies will be less effective. Building connections means building trust, developing feelings of mutual respect, and having staff feel valued and appreciated. It means taking time to understand each team member's work style and to build your relationship and your interactions based on that work style. This will help us build a sense of belonging at the workplace. Strategy number 2 is performance expectation, and it's something that most people would not think of as a motivator. For many supervisors, performance expectations are what they focus on when they have a poor performing employee and they need to develop a performance plan. And while that's certainly a good use of performance expectations, if it's the only time you focus on them, you've really missed some great motivational opportunities. Being clear about performance expectations for your staff, especially your newer staff, can help motivate them. And in times of rapid change that we find ourselves now, staff can become confused about exactly what is expected of them, and their confusion and anxiety can diminish their motivation. So clear performance expectations will help with this. Performance expectations should be seen as a roadmap to success. When employees miss the mark, supervisors can use that as a learning opportunity, but not a scolding opportunity. By treating mistakes as something to learn from, employees will gain greater trust in their supervisor and look to you as a resource to help them succeed, not someone to hide from. The more they trust you to help them and not punish them, the more they'll ask questions instead of guessing how to do something or listening to a coworker instead of you. So clear and specific performance expectations also serve as a foundation for giving positive and corrective feedback. We discussed performance expectations in depth in our webinar, Managing Performance Remotely. So for more about this, you can review a recording of that webinar on the OVS Training Center webpage. And I think that Rachel has already given you that link. Strategy number 3 is one I'm sure you have all heard a lot about and one that many of you believe you do very well. From our experience, we've observed that while many supervisors believe they give a lot of positive feedback, many employees believe they don't get enough. So one of the biggest complaints employees have about their supervisors is that they feel unappreciated. Positive feedback is the key vehicle for letting employees know they are appreciated. In addition, some employees who do a good job are not sure about how their performance is viewed. Without positive feedback and appreciation, they become anxious and start second-guessing themselves. And this reduces their motivation and their performance. The key to effective positive feedback is to focus on specific behaviors and tie them to performance expectations. To make the feedback even more powerful, see if you can add an impact statement to it. It doesn't have to be a heroic statement, but it has to be tangible. It has to be tangible. For example, when clients are well prepared, they can assist more effectively in their cases, and this leads to better outcomes. Or point out that timely and accurate documentation can help increase accuracy and communication among the staff. Motivational managers are always on the lookout for examples of good performance to comment on. A great addition to your everyday supervisory tasks is catching your employees doing something right and letting them know. And remember, don't just say, great job, be specific. Now, this is going to be a little bit harder to do when we're in a remote workplace in our remote working environments because we're not going to see our employees doing things face to face as we once did. So it may take a little bit more effort, but make sure you do look to find some things that your employees are doing well and specifically comment on them in a positive way. And be careful to keep finding new examples so you're not repeating yourself. All of your staff, including your poor performers, do something right each day. So catch them at it, find out about it, and let them know that you appreciate it. The fourth motivational strategy includes how you correct poor performance by using training, coaching, and corrective feedback. Many of you may wonder how corrective feedback can be motivational. Ideally, we want to try and build connections with our poor performers and give them positive feedback for their good work. We hope that turns them around. But usually we also have to hold them accountable for poor performance and help them correct it. Motivating the poor performer can be difficult, but often is very possible. Corrective feedback is where we bring to the employee's attention the fact that they are not meeting performance expectations, and we point out how we'd like them to change. As with positive feedback, corrective feedback is also based on performance expectations. Many supervisors dread giving corrective feedback, calling it negative or critical feedback, but it's the last thing they think of as a motivational strategy. So let's talk a little bit about what some of the motivational elements might be of corrective feedback. So first, some employees know they are not getting the job right, but they don't know how to do it right, and they don't know how to ask for help. Giving them corrective feedback in a constructive way opens the door for coaching and problem solving, and it reduces anxiety while increasing positive feelings about work. A second area is some employees think they're doing a great job because they misunderstood the expectations for the job or the task, or they misperceive their own performance. Eventually, they'll be called on the carpet, and they'll be embarrassed or they'll be disciplined. An early corrective intervention gives them a face-saving way to catch mistakes and correct them. And third, some employees feel unappreciated and that no one notices what they do anyway, so they just don't do much at all. Corrective feedback shows that you're paying attention to them. It may be all you can give to some of your employees at first, but setting small goals for improved performance will then set the stage for giving positive feedback. And if done constructively, this can be a great way to begin to motivate the unmotivated. And finally, our fifth strategy for motivating staff is to engage them by providing meaningful challenges or increased responsibility. This one is almost magic. It's a true win-win and also one of the best solutions to doing more with less. But first I want to discuss what it's not. As Alan pointed out earlier, it's not giving your good workers more work or going to your go-to person with every crisis that comes along. That can be a recipe for burnout. I know in this rapid this time where everything is changing so rapidly and we have crisis after crisis, the temptation is to pile the work onto the people who can do the job well. But over time, those staff members realize what's happening. They see themselves working later each day and they're more and more exhausted. And they know that the mediocre performers are doing a lot less than they are. Eventually they wise up and your good performers either find another job or they stop doing such a good job. And those are two terrible outcomes. So giving more work to good workers is not the strategy we're talking about here. This strategy of engaging employees around new challenges does involve giving your good workers more work, but doing so because they value the new work. Alan, can you give us some examples about how this might work?
Sure, Jenny. Thanks. Here are two quick examples that might clarify how it pulls together a number of our motivational strategies. Let's take a look at Tammy first. She's an advocate. She's very experienced and skilled, and she's been in her job for 8 years. So she's gotten kind of bored with her job, and there's a promotional opportunity coming up that she's interested in. The concern is that Tammy keeps to herself and doesn't connect well with fewer other staff. This has gotten worse while working remotely. Using the strategies we presented, how might you motivate Tammy to work on her interpersonal skills? Well, you might begin by acknowledging how skilled she is and that you know she's interested in promotion. That's the affirmation and positive feedback. You could then share with her your concerns about her people skills, which you hopefully have shared previously, and you might suggest that if she's willing to mentor some of the newer employees, she'd be showing some leadership and working on her communication skills. Let her know that you'd be willing to coach her since she'd be lightening your load with her mentoring. This approach combines positive and corrective feedback with a motivational challenge and coaching, so it pulls a lot of the strategies Jenny mentioned all together. For Tammy, it recognizes her high level of skill and success and provides her an opportunity to move closer to her goal of promotion. Therefore, she may be willing to get more of her work done quickly so she can take time to coach others. For the agency, it's a win-win in that we've got Tammy refocused on her core job and doing it even better, and we get the added bonus of another set of eyes and ears helping some of the newer staff do their job well. This also builds a stronger sense of teamwork among the staff, which is yet an added bonus. Now, Tammy might or might not sign on for this, but if she didn't, then at least you know why she didn't get the promotion. And if she does, you can see there's quite a few benefits to this one little strategy. And here's one more person. We have April, who's a highly skilled but now unmotivated attorney. She's been taking on extra work, and she's finally pushing back. This is an example of how we can punish people for good work. She used to try very hard and was very thorough, and she's been taking on the work of others who are feeling overwhelmed by working remotely. So now she feels unappreciated and frequently complains. Can you think of a strategy to motivate April to re-engage her with her work and to reach a better balance? You could begin by recognizing both her skills and her additional contributions. Thank her for taking on the overflow and acknowledge that it isn't fair to her. Let her know you and the team appreciate her stepping up and now want to help her reestablish some balance so she's not so overwhelmed. Since April's a highly skilled attorney who is well organized, you might suggest that she help some of the attorneys who are feeling overwhelmed by working remotely think through how they might better organize their work to be more productive. This would give her a new challenge that's not more of the same, and will give her recognition as an expert with her peers. In return, you'll help redistribute the work to other attorneys, bringing April's workload into better balance. And you'll also help coach the other attorneys, so it's not all on April. This again combines a new challenge with appreciation and recognition. If it works well, you won't even have to give her corrective feedback. And if she doesn't agree to it, you can work with her to slowly untangle her workload and redistribute it to other staff who you'll be coaching and motivating to step up more. Now take a moment and think about your own situation. Oops. My slides aren't moving. There we go. Do you have skilled staff who might be somewhat bored with the job, or staff feeling overwhelmed who have shut down, or staff who just were never really motivated? Think about the strategies we discussed and make a few quick notes about ideas you might want to try back at work. I'm only going to give you a minute here, but I know sometimes we present so much information it all gets kind of confusing. So I wanted to just give you just another 30-second pause here to make some quick notes about how you might be able to take some of this back to the workplace. And if anybody wants to chat in on the chat box and share some of your ideas, we'll share those with others as well. We're going to keep going here. As leaders, you put a lot of energy into supporting, motivating, and monitoring your staff. It's important, especially in these stressful times, that you make sure to keep your motivation up as well. As I say on the airplane, put your mask on before helping those with you. The same basic strategies apply to you in terms of motivation. You want to be sure you feel fully competent. Leading remotely is very different. We presented several webinars on that you may want to review. We can also offer coaching to help you think this through. Also, make sure that you feel you belong and find someone who can provide you the support you need. This could be your supervisor or a peer, never a direct report. Be sure to check in with your supervisor regularly to get feedback on how you're doing, and do the same with your staff to get their feedback as well. And third, working remotely increases autonomy, but be sure you're fully familiar with your agency's guidelines, which may change frequently as our world changes, as to how to properly operate in this new normal, of this changing normal. We haven't quite landed. And finally, don't forget self-care. Be sure to take breaks and do something fun to de-stress. Set clear boundaries that provide you the space you need to function well. We're coming to the end of our program and want to do a very quick recap of what we've covered and see if there are any questions. So please take this time to type your questions into the chat box, or if you have great motivational strategies you want to share, type those in as well. So we began this by looking at what motivation is and determining that it's an internal force that moves people to action. We also looked at issues that might not be related to motivation at all, but were other factors that need to be addressed. It's important to make an honest appraisal of how you as a supervisor may inadvertently either limit employee opportunities to do a great job or even demotivate them. And we looked at 3 core goals of any motivational strategy: competence, autonomy, and belonging. We wrapped up with the 5 key strategies that help you reach those 3 goals. So if you have questions about any of this, please feel free to type them into the chat box. We're going to start answering them in just a minute. As Blake mentioned at the beginning, this is part of the TTAR program, and we wanted to go over that quickly. OVS is providing a wide range of support to their funded agencies at no cost to your agency. We provide training, leadership coaching, and organizational consulting on a wide range of topics, which can be found on the OVS website. If you scroll down on that page, you'll see a link to our catalog of services, which gives a lot more information about what we can offer. Some examples of services we can offer remotely include helping you design and then facilitate a staff team building retreat for staff who've been isolated so they can begin to re-engage and build a sense of team motivation as hopefully we come back to the workplace. We can also provide individual consulting to help you think through the motivational strategies we discussed for you to use with some of your more challenging staff. We also provide a wide range of customized training and individual coaching focused on leadership skills to help you successfully develop and coach your staff. This can include things such as a deeper understanding of the team communication styles that Jenny mentioned, and we've been talking about how people have different motivational styles, and team is a real helpful way to get a sense of what those differences are, and how that can affect communication and teamwork, and how you can work to promote maximum communication and teamwork among your members. How to better manage performance management, set clear expectations, and give effective feedback. We find those are among the most challenging things for many supervisors, is accountability. And then how to effectively coach and motivate your staff, things we talked about here today. And then helping you sort through any number of challenges you might face, both day to day, as well as managing through these crises. And if you're interested in this and you contact us, we'll sit down and have a conversation. You don't have to have everything figured out before you call us. That's part of our consulting, is helping you think through what you might need and how we can best offer that. So in addition to the training and coach and work with your staff and groups, we also provide individual coaching. During the crisis, OVS has made us available on an ad hoc basis to provide coaching to managers and leaders of their funded agencies. We can serve as an independent sounding board for you to bounce off ideas and concerns. We can also help you explore new strategies to more effectively lead your team. If you'd like to find out more about this or sign up for coaching, go to the calendar link on your screen to set up an initial session to explore whether this could be of value to you. All coaching sessions are completely confidential and available at no charge. No application is needed for this, and you can find this link on the OVS website. We're coming to the end of the webinar, and those of you who need to leave, as Blake said, please fill out the evaluation that'll pop up on your screen. We'd really like to get your feedback. We're going to stay on and answer any questions you may have, so again, please chat them into the chat box. A couple have come in, and we're going to respond to them before we sign off in just another minute or two. You can also email us your questions or email us to find out more about the services we offer. And you can set up a phone call with us just to talk about our services by going to the calendar link at the bottom of the slide. I'm going to turn it over to Blake to wrap up our session, and then Jenny and I will be back to answer your questions. Again, please type your questions into the chat box, and we'll respond in just a minute.
Well, thank you. A special thank you to Ginny and Alan for putting together today's webinar. This is super helpful. As Alan just mentioned, don't forget, please complete your evaluation survey for us. They really do help us improve these from week to week, so it's important for that feedback. Join us next week, I think on July 8th. We have another webinar coming up on building and sustaining professional resilience. So if you want to sign up, we appreciate you joining us today. This recording will be probably published on our YouTube channel tomorrow, and it usually takes us about a full day to get them uploaded. So if you want to share this with your networks, you're welcome to check back. You'll also get an email about that. So if you're going to take off, enjoy the rest of your day. We appreciate it. Thank you. Otherwise, we will stick around and answer some questions that are starting to come in.
Nope, Alan, I think you're muted.
I am. Thank you.
I see your lips moving.
Okay, one of the first questions that came in is, what's the best advice for providing feedback to employees who are defensive? And again, what Jenny said is that if you have clear performance expectations again, you're not scolding the employee. It's nothing personal. You're not saying they're not a good worker. You're saying this is what I expected, and you're not meeting it. And how can I help you meet it? So you want to move very quickly from giving feedback. And when they get defensive, take a minute, listen to them. Don't just ignore what they have to say. But so generally, you don't have to spend any time on excuses that people give. You acknowledge it. Yeah, the world is tough. Life is hard. Things are different. Yes, I understand. And this is still my expectation or the agency's expectation. How can you meet it given all these horrible things that are happening? And we need to find a way through that. And I'm here to help you. So you want to move very quickly off of corrective feedback. You want to say it, make sure that they hear it, and then you want to move into problem solving, and that takes a big edge off. Anything you want to add, or you want to take the next one?
No, I agree with what Alan said. We did spend a little bit more time on this when we did the Managing Performance Remotely webinar. So if you want to, I think it's towards the end of the webinar if you want to look at that. But really, focus on the behavior and the expectation, and then, so that they have a hard time being defensive, and then move on to, helping them problem solve. The next question is about, as a team leader, I'm a hands-on person. It's difficult to be hands-on when working remotely does not provide that personal assistance. So if you have, for example, I have staff that are not very computer savvy, and virtual instructions are not helpful. So I do think, that's one of the harder things about this remote working is trying to find a way to increase that personal touch. And so if these Zoom meetings are great, and so trying to bring your staff on board so that you can have some face-to-face meetings so that you can get that same sense of hands-on interaction, even though you're not in the same spot. Checking in frequently so that you can maybe help troubleshoot problems, even if you have, even if it's only a few minutes a day or a few minutes every couple of days, that might help provide that hands-on one-on-one approach that you're missing. It is, I think, especially hard for people that are not as comfortable with the technology. So trying to find a technology that works the best for those staff people may be the way to do it. Alan, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I've got a 93-year-old mother that I've been coaching to use Zoom for our family gatherings, and it is difficult. But one trick somebody told me is that if you could be on the Zoom call with your computer, and then you've got your phone, and your phone can dial into the call, you can use the camera on your phone. Some people kind of walk around their house and give tours, and you can use the camera on your phone to show your keyboard. And you have to use that Windows key. It's over there on the lower left. See what it looks like, and you can actually point to it, and people can see it. So you can use have the Zoom where I'm still talking to you, but my camera is kind of going around. I'm sharing the screen of my phone to show you, different techniques I have to do. But it is difficult. But I think Zoom really makes it. It's face-to-face is so much easier. I could even hold up my keyboard and show you. So, I think patience, acknowledgement, their frustration. Don't go too fast. Don't tell them too much. Keep it simple. What's the core thing that they really need to know? My mother just needed to know to click on that link and then find that little microphone button, and that was it. And there's all this stuff she could do, but she didn't need to hear that. And so give her that, and she can get on board.
And just to follow up that question, there was another question that says, how do you motivate staff to put video on during Zoom? And I think it's critical to try and get your staff to at least periodically do face-to-face meetings during Zoom. So you can, and there are some concerns people have about privacy. People are just uncomfortable with that camera, but they can use the virtual backgrounds if they don't want to let you into their home. But that, as if it were a face-to-face meeting, you would not necessarily exclude them from a team meeting because they didn't want to be face-to-face with their colleagues. So it really gives that personal approach. So, maybe negotiate a number, types of meetings that they can be face-to-face with on Zoom. But it is critical just so that they, that they're paying attention, so that they are showing their colleagues that they are engaged with what's going on, because that is motivating to other staff on the call if they know that people are listening. Anything to add to that, Alan?
Yeah, no, the excuses people are not, someone wrote down, not looking good today, and I don't want to show my face. And it takes away so much to not have that face to face. I think it needs to be an expectation that, people can put a mask on and a hoodie on if they want. I just want to see their eyes. I don't really need to see anything else, but, that to really encourage people, Jenny said if they could do a virtual background, not all computers have the capacity to
Right.
handle that in Zoom, but that encourage them to go sit in the corner close to the camera,
Right.
so all you see is a wall. I mean, that's fine too. They don't have to show their house and do all that, but I think it's important, and I always feel a little cheated when someone is on a group meeting and they don't have their video on. So also to understand, people have bad days, people are having rough times. So, give them some slack, but, try to meet them in the middle. There was also some follow-up to the question on feedback, and it was helpful to understand how staff best receive feedback. Do they prefer a meeting, written, morning, only after their first coffee? Sometimes presenting less than stellar news with their working habits in mind can be helpful. So that's another great point. That people have better and worse times of the day, more or less stressed. Someone's home with kids, and the kids are, doing their school, and they have to help with that. It's not a good time to be talking about difficult topics. Other people, it says, need their coffee before you ever want to talk to them. So keep that in mind. The written part, I would be cautious about emailing somebody feedback, corrective feedback. There's just so much you lose. We just talked about the video. If you lose the video and the audio, you lose so much of the message. And this is a very risky and nuanced message. They need to hear your tone of voice is upbeat. I'm here to help you change. We're here to move forward. And it's not punitive. If you just put it in writing, they're going to hear a very punitive tone of voice, whether you mean it or not. That's how people receive it. So I'd be very cautious. You might tell somebody, I'm happy to follow up with some written examples for you if you want the writing, but I would be very hesitant to give people written corrective feedback unless you know they're going to take it well. Like there are some people who, send you a memo and say, please edit it. I want your edits, and they're fine. You can just edit it away. But other people will be crushed. Says, oh my God, you didn't like my writing, and look at all those marks. I must be horrible. They take it to an extreme. So I'd be a little cautious about corrective feedback in writing. Jenny, you want to pick up the next one?
Yeah. So I just want to make sure we didn't miss one up above. Okay. Nope. I think that. I'm on a team of just 2 dedicated staff members, myself and 1 staff member. She's not accomplishing her goals as quickly or as thoroughly as I would like. I believe due to a lack of motivation, but I'm not sure how to support her without taking on more of her work myself, which is not sustainable. So I agree that, the solution is not for you to take on her work, but it may be to have a conversation about why she's not accomplishing her goals as quickly or as thoroughly as you think she could. So is it to try and explore that a little with her. So if the expectation is that it should take a certain amount of time, get a sense of, she doesn't understand how thorough it should be. So as Alan pointed out in the motivation, during the presentation, it may be that she's not clear on what the expectation is for thoroughness or how long it should take. It may be a time management issue, so kind of exploring, how she's managing she is managing her time, and is there a way she can manage her time differently or set time aside so that she can get the task accomplished. I think that, kind of coaching her through it and asking her the questions about why this is happening, this expectation is that this task should take this long and should be this thorough. That's not happening. So talk to me a little bit about why you think it's not happening and what your solutions might be to get there. And then coach her through it. Maybe you have some ideas of how she could do the work more thoroughly. Alan, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just that the word support doesn't mean doing for them. So I want to support her. All the things Jenny said, listening to her, acknowledging the challenge, helping her think through strategies, that's all support. Affirming her personally, I think you have the skills, the ability, or if you're missing those, I can help fill those. That's all support. But let me do your work for you is not support. And so I think, again, a lot of us come from a helping profession. That's how we got into our leadership role. And so we're used to helping our clients and doing for them if they can't do for themselves. But just as we try to empower our clients, we want to do the same with our staff, and even more so that they need to stand on their own and be able to do their work. So yeah, support is more emotional support than actually doing the work. We had a couple of comments about back to video on Zoom. Is a good idea to warn them that you're going to have a video chat tomorrow or 2 o'clock, or give them some time to get ready, clean up their background, or whatever they need to do. Don't spring it on people. Set an expectation that it's coming. Okay, I think that's it for questions.
Yeah, we're right at 12:01. So thank you again, guys. I don't see any more coming in. And also, if you have more follow-up questions, please take advantage of reaching out to Jenny and Alan. Their email information's there. But we appreciate it. Do you got any final parting words for us?
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, thank you. And tune in the next time. I think 2 weeks from now is our next one. Do you have another one coming up before that?
Yeah, we have one next week on the 8th, and then your guys' next one is on July 16th, Coaching to High Performance. So all of those are available on our website, and we'd love to have you guys join us here.
One last question, sneak in.
Yeah, let's get to it.
In following up the staff performance, is it fine to inform staff of deadlines and why, such as reports need to be you need to complete your own reports, and that affects submission to funders? Absolutely. In fact, one of the keys that we talked about in the other webinar in giving corrective feedback is we have to talk about their behavior, in this case being late in not meeting deadlines, and then the impact. And that so what question. It's critical. So that's a great point. So that when you're late, it makes me late, and when I'm late to the funders, and that's going to affect our funding going forward. It also could just be embarrassing for us as an agency, embarrassing for me as a leader. And so lots of different impacts. When someone doesn't do something that is expected, or does something unexpected or undesired, there's an impact. And they need to understand that, because people don't know, what's the big deal? You wanted it Friday, I got it Tuesday, pretty close, who cares? Well, I care, and there's a reason why. It's not just because I said so. So yeah, that's a great comment. So, but again, as Blake said, feel free to email us with any further questions, or if you'd like to discuss anything further, we'd be happy to talk with you.
All right, guys. Well, thank you. Appreciate you
very much.
Join us next week. We'll see you guys soon.
See you soon.